Emma tugged on my hand and bounced around with impatience. She looked like a little girl who'd finally dragged her parents out to the children's park, and she was so excited. However, from a little girl, she was strikingly different from a little girl, yellow tight dress, emphasizing her rounded forms. I often admired them, envying myself. Under this short dress, the outlines of firm buttocks were showing, and the length of the dress did not allow the girl not to bend over, not to sit down without showing her panties to all comers. I will say at once, without the dress I did not see her body, although there is no doubt the belly is flat and breasts are confident 95D. Naive girl, it seems, did not guess what riches nature has gifted her with, and I was in no hurry to open her eyes. I had serious plans for this young 18-year-old who, by the way, was 11 years younger than me. In the entryway, Emma, overwhelmed with emotion, repeated once again, "Mom's name is Gabriella, Dad's name is Stan, and don't worry, they're simple people." She hugged me tightly around the neck and nestled her lips into mine. A deep kiss away from prying eyes was probably the most she could dare to do alone with a man, but if only to tolerate the insolent hand on her ass. But I'm not pushing, I'm not rushing things, and I wouldn't be surprised if she hasn't been with a man yet. Emma was walking up the dark staircase of an old 5-story building, kicking her high-heeled shoes up and down each step without realizing it, letting me leisurely enjoy the sight of her nut, swaying her roundness beneath the thin fabric. Every now and then I hoped to see at least the color of her panties, incoherently responding to her cheerful chirping. The show ended on the 4th floor. The light from the waiting apartment door illuminated the landing. "Mom, Dad, this is Jonathan. He is my boyfriend." She was more excited than she'd planned. "And these are my parents, Gabriella, and where's Dad? Dad got called into work. They had an accident on the line. Come in, don't be shy. We are simple, friendly people," Gabriella continued in an unnaturally nice voice. It's worth saying, in the natural light in the room, I realized the power of genetics and who Emma is so beautiful in. Her mom is about 40 years old, but they look almost identical, and it's hard to tell right away if they're sisters or not. Sporting tight breeches and a tank top, she probably has to work out to keep in shape, but it's still worth it. I sat down in a soft, deep armchair while the women, no, more like girls, were bustling about in the kitchen clinking dishes. In the bright room of the old 3-room apartment, there was old furniture with dishes and books, a TV and a sofa and armchairs, and on the walls hung a few frames with family photos. The coffee table between the armchair and the sofa was covered in a moment, and the mother and daughter sat down across from me in impatience. The daughter, proud to introduce me to her mother, and the mother with a mute question as to why such an adult. Nevertheless, the tension was not felt, and I happily munched on cake and drank coffee while Emma talked non-stop, complimenting me. Mom seemed to change her mind. In a more friendly tone, she asked me unobtrusive questions, and the conversation took a new direction. "Oh, let's look at the old album. I'm quite a baby in there," Emma suggested cheerfully. She rolled the table away and childishly rushed to the wall, where she tiptoed to the top mezzanine. My highly anticipated arrival in the stairwell had come at such an inopportune moment. I'm sure my mom wouldn't approve of my look, but I couldn't miss the way her dress was pulled up and her underwear exposed. "Mom, where's the album? It's not here." Offended by the unforeseen ambush, the girl changed her tone. Mom got up from the couch, and after making sure there was no album, she walked confidently over to the TV. She lowered herself to the floor and began rummaging through the TV nightstand. To get to the inside, she got down on all fours, and with her left hand on the floor, searched for the album among the mass of junk. Jeans helped me hide my hardening little friend from the audience. The mother's butt was not only not inferior to her daughter's, it was more feminine and lush. The woman must have been purposely taking her time to find the album. She was twisting her ass around in a businesslike manner while the daughter waited for the album, and I enjoyed the view. Athletic legs with tight calves and cellulite-free thighs and soft big buttocks were covered with elastic tights. Another admiring session was over, and the women beckoned me to move to the couch. An old album was placed at my feet, and Emma, nestled on my right, flipped through the pages and commented enthusiastically on each picture. I, of course, was nodding in agreement and fake rapture until I froze at the unexpected touch on my left. Gabriella sat on my left side, her leg pressed against mine, her head close to the album. An unfamiliar, pleasant odor wafted to me. All the while I automatically nodded to Emma and felt Gabriella's hand stealthily running through my hair, massaging my head with her fingertips. There was no escape from such captivity. "Emma, go put the kettle on, we'll sit in the kitchen," my mother said in a playfully stern tone when the pictures were finished. Emma obediently went to the kitchen with the dirty cups, and as soon as she was out the door, my mother slid her hand over my thigh, got up from the couch, and carried the album back to the TV, her gaze promising a continuation of the show. Gabriella walked slowly, twisting her butt and arching her back in front of the TV, showing off her ass. Slowly she lowered herself without bending her knees and put the damn album down. Needless to say, Gabriella's introduction to Emma's close proximity caused a storm of emotion in my pants. I don't know how to get up and make my way to the kitchen, leaving the bump unnoticed. Mom was the first one out of the room, and I followed her, walking down the hallway. She stood abruptly in the kitchen doorway, so that I bumped into her. "Here we are, daughter." The kettle was boiling. Emma was fussing around the table, and I, feeling Gabriella's buttocks, waited for her to come into the kitchen. After setting the table, Emma sat down on the edge of the sofa by the window, closer to the stove, and gestured for me to sit down too. I sat on the other edge and rested my elbows on the table. While Emma sat pouring boiling water into cups, Mom decided to get in the middle. She came right up to me and, without giving me a chance to stand up, began to squeeze between me and the table, which did nothing to weaken my erection. The topics of conversation were coming to an end, and I still couldn't get up from the table without being taken by surprise. Gabriella was already openly running her hand down my thigh, hiding behind the table from her daughter's eyes. While Emma laughed and told a story from uni, her mother gently stroked my leg, occasionally touching the bump. The tight denim prevented the predator from grabbing its prey. Bowing to her daughter, the mother squeezed my leg with her fingers until it hurt. I couldn't stop her without asking Emma more questions. So my will fought against the temptations of the Queen of Spades, until finally the phone rang in the room, and Gabriella, necessarily pressed against me with her heel, did not sneak from behind the table. "Daughter, Dad is calling. He'll be here soon. You'll wait for him. And he also asks, 'Did you visit Aunt Catherine today?'" shouted from the room Mom. "Yay, Daddy will come soon. You'll see how cool he is." "Mom, Dad will certainly wait. And to Aunt Catherine, I will run now, just in time to go to the pharmacy and her before Dad comes." The daughter also shouted through the walls, "Babe, you'll wait, won't you? Tell Mommy something, and I'll run to help Daddy's sister. She's after the operation, and I'll be there before Daddy comes. I'm so glad Daddy was able to get free. Emma was over the moon." She pressed her whole body against me, squeezed me tightly in her arms, and whispered passionately in my ear that she loved me and would not give me to anyone. She wrote off the bump as her own, if she noticed it at all. Not knowing how to act, I opted to go back to the living room and wait in the chair in front of the TV. The situation was not an easy one, and it was hard for me to concentrate on the TV. With a quiet slam of the door at the other end of the hallway, Gabriella entered the room with soft footsteps. She sat down in the chair across from me and lowered her eyes in embarrassment. "You're a big boy. You should understand." She intermittently chose her words. "I'm still quite young, and my husband hasn't slept with me in a long time. You have to understand that. This will stay between us. You just don't resist. Give me permission to do this." Uncovering the cards, Gabriella looked at me hopefully. "It won't affect your sleigh or your relationship in any way. Just help me or I'll go crazy." Glancing at my watch, I thought hard. There was nothing to stop me from taking advantage of the situation. At the same time, after such a confession, my mother could hardly communicate with her son-in-law in the future and would do everything to make us part, be that as it may. I unbuckled the belt of my jeans and didn't have time to do anything else. Gabriella was at my side in the blink of an eye. Before I could blink, she was unbuttoning my jeans with shaky hands, anticipating the pleasure. That's where Emma's expression of emotion was so vivid. We plunged headfirst into an ocean of pleasure. She had experienced the peak of pleasure more than once. The ringing of the doorbell brought us back to consciousness. While Gabriella was through the door asking who had come and pretending to look for her keys, we both managed to get dressed. An hour and a half later, in a warm family circle around the kitchen table, the parents' introduction to their daughter's fiancée took place. Dad was friendly with his daughter's choice, and Mom, staid and feminine, served more and more treats to the table. As it turned out, the neighbors were calling at the door. The loud music interrupted them.